Now, it is easy to put on a nice outfit and have a nice background, but there's one more thing that you have to consider before you shoot videos. So today we're talking about the best camera angles before you get on video. Let's jump into it. If you're new here, my name is Liz and I release videos every Tuesday teaching you how you can add video to your business. Make sure that you subscribe so that you never miss any of my future content. Now, this is one of the most overlooked things when people are preparing to create videos. People know that they have to be dressed nicely and have their content ready and have strong camera presence and delivery, and they also know that they have to set up their environment the right way. But many people forget what a difference it makes if your device that you are recording on is not positioned the best way to capture you as your best awesome self. So this is what we're going to talk about in today's video, and I'm going to give you about 9 or 10 different examples of ways that you can position your device as well as yourself when you are taking videos. Now, these principles that we're talking about are going to be relevant regardless of what type of video you are creating, whether you are jumping on a Zoom call or you're in a Zoom meeting, or you are creating videos for social media, or whether you're shooting videos for your online course materials. These principles are all the same, so I'm giving you some food for thought so that you can adjust it according to the type of videos that you are shooting. So let's jump into it. Now, if you've watched any of my past content, you know that one camera angle that makes me crazy is when they position their camera higher than their eye level. The best practice is always to have your camera at eye level, and this is the same whether you are using your webcam from your laptop or your smartphone or a DSLR. Either use a stack of books or a stand or a tripod to make sure that that actual camera lens is right where your eye is. This is the easiest and most natural view for your viewer. It feels like they are sitting with you at Starbucks and having a conversation. On the other hand, if you get your camera lens higher than your eye, then what happens is it makes your viewer feel like they are watching you while you sit down in the basement somewhere. It's okay for a couple of minutes, but it is really hard to watch somebody at length from that angle. So let's avoid that one first. Now, the opposite also makes me crazy, and that is when we have our camera lens lower than eye level. This happens all the time in Zoom meetings because often what happens is we put our laptop on our desk and then we sit in front of it. That is, of course, the most natural and normal thing to do. The problem is when you do that, the actual webcam is significantly lower than your eye level, which means now you are looking down at it and everyone is looking up at you. This is never a complimentary angle. So for this reason, avoid having your camera lens even lower than eye level, whether that's with your smartphone on a tripod or whether that's with your webcam on the actual laptop. So let's take a second to think about what we can do about this. If you have a tripod, it's as easy as adjusting it. If you're using your laptop, then all you really have to do is find a small cardboard box or a couple of books or a board game and just stack your laptop on top of that so that you can raise it. Try to get it as raised as possible so that your webcam is actually at the eye level. Now, just as an extra piece of technical information for this, if you're someone who uses a MacBook or any type of a laptop that is notorious for having a loud fan, consider the fact that your laptop, in fact, needs to have free space underneath it so that the cooling systems and the fan work well enough to keep your actual laptop cool and avoid overheating, and also so that that loud fan doesn't absolutely destroy the video quality. So one thing that you might want to consider is actually purchasing an official laptop stand, which you can even grab off of Amazon for between $20 to $30. So that device and that thing is actually just created in a way so that there is open space around the fan areas of your laptop. This kind of solves that problem really easily. But if that's not you, then what you can just do is absolutely take a Monopoly game that you have sitting around at home or a couple of books and then just put your laptop on top of that and make sure that you're aiming for eye level. Now, if you've ever studied photography or taken brand photos with a photographer, you will see that many of them often like to consider an off-center position when they're taking photos. And the same can be true of video. If you position your device so that you are actually a little bit off from the actual center of your screen, then sometimes that gives a really nice effect. So I recommend that you just try it out and compare that to what your video looks like if you are positioned dead in the center. You can see for this video, for example, I'm not in the center of the frame that you are seeing. I'm just a little bit off to the side. So of course, if you do that, then you do need something in the rest of the frame that just keeps the attention or the interest of your viewer without being cluttered or annoying or boring in any way. But this is also another camera angle that just looks a little bit different. And one additional feature of this is that if you get this space on one side, you can also use a split screen, or you can put up some text or some other additional effects using your video editing software. So we're interrupting this video so that I can remind you to subscribe. I think you should do that first. And if you want me to send you a free resource so that you can get started right away with getting on camera and showing up on video, make sure that you look for it in the description below. Just click the link and I'm going to send you that right away. So let's get back to our video. Now, if you own a smartphone like an iPhone, you might have noticed that one of the photo settings there is known as portrait. And this actually allows you to have a beautiful blurry background while you are actually focused in the focal point of the camera. And this can also be done with video. Now, of course, it depends on what device you have, and it can be done far more easily with a DSLR because you can adjust the zoom settings. But if you're using a smartphone to capture your video and you cannot get that same quality, then it's basically an issue of setting up your device so that you are somewhat close to it, but the background is very far away. This will just naturally allow the autofocus of your smartphone to just focus on your face and then create a bit of a blurry background in the back. Sometimes that's a really nice camera angle, especially if you are shooting videos outdoors and there's a nice landscape or any type of nice architecture. So you can also try that camera angle. Speaking of standing close to your device, let's talk for a minute about your camera angles when you are shooting videos for social media. And let's talk specifically about Instagram. If you've ever shot an Instagram reel before, you might have noticed that everything looks fine when you're shooting it, and of course you're shooting that in the vertical format. But then when you go to post that to Instagram, and then you also share it to your feed, that square that shows up on Instagram might have the top of your head cut off. This is a problem that we see all the time. So that means even before you start shooting that vertical video for your reel, make sure that you have positioned your device so that there is sufficient headroom above your head. Don't stand so close to the device so that you fill the screen, because even though it looks nice in real time, if you want to send that to your feed, it is actually going to chop off the top bit. So try to position yourself so that there's a little bit of headroom there and it still looks nice and natural without having too much extra ceiling or anything. But then test that out and then see how that looks when you share it to your feed. Now we have a similar situation if we are doing Instagram lives. This means that again, we are shooting this in a vertical format, and we want to remember again to keep a little bit of headspace so that when we share that to our feed, the top of our forehead doesn't get cut off. But let's consider for a second what happens if we have invited a guest to join us in our live stream. At that point, that one vertical video screen is going to be sliced in half. You as the host will be in the top half, and your guest that you've invited will show up in the bottom half. So now both of you have to make sure that you are positioned properly with enough headspace so that your forehead doesn't get cut off, as the screen will now be divided in two. So again, sometimes this takes a little bit of trial and error. After you do it the first time and then you watch that back, that's when you can make a mental note to yourself as to whether you are sitting too close to the device or too far, or whether you need to just angle your device's lens in a certain way so that you can capture you the best way. Now, in many of my programs, I talk about the effect that the color of your clothes and your lighting can have on the actual production quality of your video. So this is always going to be the case, despite what type of video you're making. But one thing to always keep in mind is that the lighting and the colors that you wear can actually make a difference as to the shadows that are cast across your neck or across your face. So this is why all of that can actually be adjusted and sometimes improved just with different camera angles. So after you make a video, I really recommend you go back and watch and make careful note of whether there are shadows that come across your neck in particular. This can absolutely ruin the vibe of your video, but you might not notice this unless you look for it. Not only can you adjust the colors that you're wearing, you can sometimes move your lighting around, but sometimes you can absolutely mitigate this problem just by angling your camera lens a little bit up or down, or just moving it a little bit to the left or right. All of this can sometimes make a difference, so make sure that you test that out, and it's just something that I wanted you to keep in mind. So let's talk for a minute about the two general rules of thumb around what to do with your chin. When you are facing straight on, this is more of a formal presentation style look. You will often see me with this look when I am shooting YouTube videos or when I am actually presenting something on Zoom. On the other hand, if you tuck your chin up a little bit, what happens is you have a little bit more of an endearing, friendly, approachable look. So ask yourself whether that's the vibe that you're going for with that particular video. On the other hand, if you tuck your chin down a little bit, it gives you more of an authoritarian expert look. You will often see presenters who are trying to get a message across to their viewer and come from the standpoint of an expert, tucking their chin down. So experiment with these different looks and make sure that it matches your personality, matches your content, and the actual vibe that you want your viewer to feel from you. Now, I've saved my favorite tip for the end because in fact, there happens to be a universally flattering position to hold your face when you are doing video work. Now, it is very simple, and in fact, if you follow me on Instagram stories, which you should be doing, right? You will notice that when I come on stories, I hold my face typically in a certain position. And a lot of people have said that it looks really nice and natural and friendly, and I do this on purpose. But it does take some practice to actually get into this. So let me tell you what it is. Now, instead of facing your camera straight dead on, where the viewer can see both of your eyes and both of your ears, all you have to do is just tilt your head a little bit until one of your ears becomes invisible. I know that it sounds silly, but in fact, this is considered to be the most universally flattering look for you. And it's also the most flattering from your viewer's standpoint. It's friendly, but it still makes you look like you have a message that you want to relay. It's not super casual, but it's also still very relaxed. So try that. So of course, you can do that in either direction. It depends on whether you think you have a better side. So you basically just want to get to a point where you are looking at your camera straight on, but one of your ears has just become invisible to the viewer. Don't tilt it so much that you start looking unnatural, but it is just a very slightly natural tilt, just until your one ear is out of the actual frame, and then this is considered the best look for you. Now don't forget to give this video a like and share it off with one of your friends. Make sure that you subscribe because every single Tuesday I bring you a new video showing you how you can get your business on video. So until next time, take care.